So you need to first choose an encryption key management solution. So the first is like a free file key management plugin. The file key management that sits with MariaDB is a very basic management and encryption plugin that reads key from the plain text file. It can also serve as an example and as a starting point when developing a key management plugin. AWS Key Management Plugin. The AWS Key Management Plugin is a key management encryption that uses the Amazon Web Services Key Management Services (KMS). The AWS Key Management Plugin depends on the AWS SDK for C++, which is uses Apache license version 2.0. This license is not compatible with MariaDB Server GPL 2. So we are not able to distribute packages that contain the AWS Key Management Plugin. Therefore, the only way to currently obtain the plugin is to install it from the source. APRI Key Management Plugin. The APRI key plugin is the key management encryption plugin that uses the APRI gateway for database. The APRI gateway for database stores encryption keys on the key server outside of the database servers itself, which provides an extra level of security. The APRI gateway for also supports performing all data encryption operations on the key server as well, but this is optional. You can have a using multiple. So why can I use a multiple encryption keys? Key management encryption plugin supports using multiple encryption key. Each encryption can be defined with a different 32-bit integer as an identifier. The support for multiple key option opens some potential use cases. For example, let's say that a hypothetical key management encryption plugin is configured to provide two encryption key. One encryption key might be intended for low security tables. It could use short keys which might not be rotated, and data could be encrypted with a fast encryption algorithm. Another encryption key might be intended for high security tables. It could use long keys which are rotated open, and data could be encrypted with a slower but more secure encryption algorithm. The user would specify the identifier of the key that they want to use for different tables, using only high level security where it is needed. There are two encryption key identifiers that have special meanings in the MariaDB. Encryption key 1 is intended for encrypting system data such as InnoDB redo log file, binary like files, and so on. It must always exist when data at rest encryption is enabled. Encryption key 2 is intended for encrypting temporary data such as temporary files and temporary tables. It is optional. If it does not exist, the MariaDB is encrypted for these purpose instead. When encrypting, the key that is used to encrypt can be changed. When encrypting MariaDB, the key table cannot be configured. Okay, so what about the key rotation? Okay, so encryption key rotation is optional in MariaDB server. Key rotation is only supported if the backend key management service supports key rotation, and if the corresponding key management and encryption plugin for MariaDB also supports key rotation. When a key management and encryption plugin supports key rotation, users can opt to rotate one or more encryption key, which creates a new version of each rotated encryption key. Okay, so I think the more important thing from the interview perspective is that for the InnoDB, or what is the option 1. So option 1 is for system, and option 2 is for the other files. So if option 2 is not enabled, it uses the option 1. Okay, support for key rotation and encryption plugins. So these are support, and then you can use the plugin IP. How do you encrypt the binary locks? Okay, so the basic MariaDB server can encrypt the server binary locks and the relay locks. This ensures that your binary locks are only accessible through MariaDB. So the basic configuration is okay. So you have to go to the file you have to add these files, which is certificates and all. Then you have to put the encryption key in here, and then you can. Okay, then you have to enable the encryption. How do you do it? You have to stop the server and then set the encrypt underscore bind log _1 in the MariaDB configuration file. How do you disable it? You put it off. Then understanding bin log encryption. When starting with the binary log encryption, by MariaDB server locks a format descriptor log event and a start underscore encryption event, then encrypts all subsequent events for the binary log. Each event's header and a footer are created and processed to produce encrypted block. These encrypted blocks are produced before transactions are committed and before the events are flushed to the binary log. As such, they exist in an encrypted state. Effects of data at rest encryption on replication. When using encrypted binary logs with replication, it is completely supported to have a different encryption keys on the master and the slave. The master decrypts encrypted binary log event as it reads from the disk, and before its binary log, dump thread sends to the slave. Okay. Effects of data at rest encryption on MySQL binlog. MySQL binlog does not enable to decrypt encrypted binary logs on its own. In order to use MySQL being an encrypted binary, you have to use the read from remote server. Okay. So these are the condition. Then what is about area encryptions? So okay, there, let's go here, area encryption overview. So MariaDB can encrypt data in table that uses the area storage engine. So basically what the concept is same, but what storage engine is used. If it is using the area storage engine instead of a InnoDB storage engine, then it can be encrypted, and these are the basic configuration that you need to do it. And so let's see, let's run this command and see with the work. Okay, so this table does not exist. Okay, and so if it is exist, it will give the ID and string as 1. So whether, for example, let's say you have the following tables. Okay, then you can, then we should search the data files that belongs to the DariaDB. Okay, so this is the string, and if you grab using the concrete searcher, so you can do like this. Okay, encryption in the ARIA log. How do you enable the encryption? Okay, so first of all, you have to set this parameter area encryption table on. Then you have to see that okay, that have the row underscore as a page. So select table schema, table name from information schema tables, where engine is equal to ARIA and row format is equal to pin, and table schema information schema. Okay, so once you get it, and you have to show alter table this engine is equal to row format is equal to pin. Okay, okay, to rebuild the table, so basically this will rebuild it, and then you can yeah, so you can enable like this way. Okay, first set it, then identify, then rebuild. This one cause you to rebuild the table using the row format table options. Okay, and okay, in this process with the new default it gives the table when it writes to disk, encrypting internal on disk. So during the execution of the query, the MariaDB routinely creates internal temporary tables. These internal temporary tables initially use the memory storage engine, which is entirely stored in memory. When the table size exceeds the allocation defined by the max heap table size system variables, MariaDB writes the data to disk using another storage engine. If you have the area used for temp table and set to on, the MariaDB uses the area and writing the internal temporary tables to disk. Encryption for internal temporary is handled separately from encryption for user defined table. Okay, manually encrypting tables. So you can actually do it, and okay, so it talks about InnoDB. So let me close other tab here, and let's see. Okay, so what about the InnoDB encryption? So MariaDB supports data at rest encryption for table using the InnoDB and HexaDB engine storage. Okay, so the basic configuration using the data at rest encryption requires that you first configure an encryption key management. So you can either do it the file based AWS KMS or Eperia, such as the file and AWS plugins. MariaDB uses this plugin to store, retrieve, and manage the various key it uses when encrypting data to and describing data from the file system. Once you have the plugin configured, you need to set a few additional system variables to enable encryption on InnoDB and HexaDB, including Okay, so this is the way you can do it. You have to set this plugin. Okay, then you can run a query to find encrypted. So basically, how do you do it? Select st space st name t encryption schema, rotating or flushing information schema dot InnoDB table says encryption. Okay, join with InnoDB sys table. So you get your normal table and the sys table, and you get these details. And once you do it, okay, so what it says, when using data at rest encryption with the InnoDB or HexaDB, it is not necessary that you encrypt every table in your database. You can check which tables are encrypted and which are not by querying this and this. This table provides for which tables are encrypted, which encryption key each encryption is encrypted, and whether the background encryption threads are currently working on the table since. Okay, so it's okay. So it says that once you do this basic configuration, you can use this query to find out whether the encryptions and which encryptions are used. Okay, then using data at rest encryption with InnoDB, the InnoDB encrypt table system variable only encrypts the InnoDB table space. In order to also encrypt the InnoDB, you also need to set the InnoDB encrypt lock system variable. So basically you have to set this variable, so this is for on, this is for table, this is for redo log, this is for thread. So if you set these values in the file, you can do it. Okay, so let's see how do you enable the encryption. Okay, so how do you enable the encryption? The InnoDB encrypt table enable automatically, okay, control the configuration of automatic encryption of InnoDB. It has the following option: off, disable, on, enable, but allows unencrypted table to be created, force, enable table encryption, and does not allow unencrypted table to be created. So how do you do it? You have to first see, okay, this is the basic thing you need to know it on InnoDB. Okay, for example, the following, create an encrypted table and confirm that it is encrypted. So you set this parameter: set global InnoDB encryption thread 4, set global InnoDB encrypt table is equal to on. Then you set session InnoDB default encryption key ID is equal to 100. You create a table, create table tab 1 ID in primary key *var. Then you do the information underscore schema table. You check for InnoDB table space encryption. You see that the encryption scheme, this particular tab 1 which you created here is enabled. Okay, so okay, I think there is some okay. I think there's some problem with this documentations. Okay, so if you go here, an encrypted table, it can be created using setting the encrypted table options. Okay, so even if these things are enabled, and if you go by encrypted is equal to no, it will set the encryption with the value 0. Okay, and if you set it to force, okay, and if you set it to no, it will fail and it won't create it. Okay, so this is the three options. Okay, and how do you enable encryption from manually encrypted table? Enabling encryption from manually encrypted table spaces. If you do not want to automatically encrypt every InnoDB table, then it is possible to manually enable encryption for just the subset of tables that you would like to encrypt. MariaDB provides the encrypted and encrypted key ID table option that can be used to manually enable encryption for specific InnoDB tables. These tables option can be used with create table and alter table statement. These table options can only be used with tables that have their own InnoDB file per table tables, meaning the tables that were created with InnoDB file per table set on. Encrypted is equal to boolean, encrypted key ID is equal to 32-bit integer. You can manually enable or disable encryption for a table by using the encrypted table options. If you only need to protect a subset of InnoDB tables with encryption, then it can be a good idea to manually encrypt each table that needs extra protection, rather than encrypting all InnoDB table globally with the InnoDB encrypt table. This allows you to balance security with the speed, as it means the encryption and decryption performance override only apply to those that require. Okay, so let's say you do it, create table tab 1 ID in primary key *worker, and you put it encryption yes, encryption is equal to 100. Okay, so this is done. Now what you do, you have set the to be encryption ID to be 100 and encrypted is equal to yes. So still you get it, so basically these are the different options by which you can either enable or disable. Okay, and this is the option you have to set it to on. You have to set it to on if you want to go for the temporary table space encryptions or not. Okay, so let's see how do you disable it. So quite naturally, as per my knowledge, that you have to set this parameter off. So you disabled by setting the information off. Okay, and yeah, so the thing is, like, if you have created the table which is like a dap table name encryption on, if you do it alter table tab and encrypted is equal to no, it will change this thing. Okay, so okay, disabling encryption for redo lock. So you have to first so the variables, and then you have to do it the first time. Okay, so basically when this is not required in your day-to-day, you do it once based on the architecture, but you should know that this is the possible, and you have to act accordingly. Okay, so so it uses the encryption key management, InnoDB and ExtraDB encryption key to support the use of multiple encryption keys. Okay, so what are the encryption keys? So basically encryption is a 32-bit in that serves as a key identifier. So when you create table T1 encrypted encryption ID, okay, you did it, then you set the you set like variable like this, you put encrypted is equal to yes. Okay, this is same. Then let's see, so you have your this encryption is on, InnoDB encrypt table is on, InnoDB encryption thread is equal to 4, default encryption key ID is 100. You create a table with create table tab 1 ID and primary key star varchar 50, and then you put select name, encryption name, current key ID from, basically you're doing the query and you say it 1, and you put your set global thread to 4, table on, you put encryption key ID is equal to 100, and you say okay, then the key rotation, so key management plan allow you to automatically rotate and was. So basically with the key rotations means you keep changing your keys without affecting your application. So if a plugin supports key rotation and if it rotates the encryption key, then the InnoDB background encryption threads can re-encrypt InnoDB pages that use the old key version with the new key version. You can set the maximum age for an encryption key using the InnoDB encryption rotate key age system variable. When this variable is set to a non-zero value, background encryption threads constantly check pages to determine if any page is encrypted with a key version that is too old. When the key version is too old, any page encrypted with the older version of the key is automatically re-encrypted in the background to use a more current version of a key. Bear in mind this constant checking can sometimes result into high CPU uses. Okay, that's correct. So you have an option how do you disable it, key rotation operation. So InnoDB encryption, okay, pending encryption informations. Okay, so let's get back here, and there is an option how do you to troubleshoot it. So you can so warnings, let me try some so warnings. Okay, I think yeah, so this came when I try to run some select query. Let's say select star from AA. I think it will give error. Okay, no database selector. So warnings. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I think this gives let's say if I do like this and I put like this, okay, so warning, it will give me the last warning. Okay, so I think it goes like this. Okay, so okay, and if you put a so warning, and okay, so you put a set global of what is this, setting encryption key ID for an unencrypted table. You are creating the table with the encryption key ID 100, then you're putting the InnoVT encrypt table is equal to on, and then when you check it, this turns into that you have your this thing, yeah, this is enabled, create table tab 1 encrypted no, encryption key ID 100. Okay, so it shows warning. What it says, encrypted is equal to no, implies encryption is equal. However, in this case, if you change the encrypted table to yes, okay, so let's set global encrypt on, alter table this thing, and this thing. So what I understand is like you have your encryption, you have so it's part of the spatial indexes. So what you mean, what is the spatial data, and then index on those data are called the spatial indexes. So okay, so we'll discuss later, and let's come here. Okay, so this is the first page, and I think okay, let's close all these pages here and move to let's try to okay. So what is the TLS and the cryptographic libraries used by the MariaDB? Okay, okay, so this command we run and we see like SSL, and let's run this command here and let's see what it says. Okay, so it is using 21st of April 2020 OpenSSL 1.1.g. This is the version of SSL library, and cat etc. This gives the OS RPM. Okay, so you can do this but not required. Okay, so how do you update it? So if you do update sudo em update OpenSSL sudo apt update, obviously it's trying to update everything. Okay, so let's come here, back here, and where we are. Okay, I think let's go. Okay, so we were in the MariaDB administration where we see, then we go to the user and security, and then we went to the securing MariaDB, and then say okay, so we already completed the encryption part. So let's see how do you running. Okay, so it says that you should never run your MariaDB as a root user. Okay, and if it is okay, so that's what it's saying. But if some for reason you have to put user is equal to root option. Okay, so the best option is to run under the MySQL users. Okay, okay, how do you do the secure installation? So it says like a MySQL secure installation is a shell script available in Unix systems, enable you to improve the security of your MariaDB installation in the following ways. You can set a password for root accounts. You can remove root accounts that are accessible from outside the local host. You can remove anonymous user account. You can remove the test database, which by default can be accessed by an anonymous user. So if you go to your cell and see MySecure installation, I think it will do the installation. So this is an inbuilt shell scripts which will do it. Okay, what is the secure reach? Okay, let's see. I think okay. This is a security feature, but it has not been updated from 2000. It is maintained by the Darren Kasser and can be downloaded from CNURich. Okay, I think open source security package will be MySQL download. I think this is a fantastic. I think okay, we will. I think not that important. And what is CLinux? Oh, CLinux, we should know it. Okay, let's see. So CLinux is a security enhanced Linux with a MariaDB. CLinux is a Linux kernel module that provides a framework for configuring mandatory access control system for many rescues on the system. It is enabled by default on some Linux distribution, including Red Hat Linux, CentOS, Fedora, and other similar Linux distributions. Kernel Linux prevents programs from accessing file directories or ports unless it is configured to access those resources. Verifying whether CLinux is enabled. Okay, so you have to type get infos and then okay, secured enhanced Linux. Okay, that's fine. Let's go back here and let's go to user account management. Okay, so the first thing is account management in a SQL commands. Okay, so these are the options. How do you create a user? Okay, so these are the different options, but let's go for an example. Drop user. Okay, create user. Okay, let's see. Create user for to identified by password. Okay, so we'll do what we will make it here so that we go here and let's see. Okay, create user, I think so, users. Okay, so user. Okay, I don't know. Okay, so use the create user foo test identify. That is what the command is. If not, execute user foo identify. Okay, so it says query. Okay, 0 row affected. And the thing is like even let's put help. Okay, let's see we will see how to go it. Okay, so it shows warnings. What did it say? Okay, so it says it failed. Okay, so for example this user is already there, so let's say if I do it this, so it means it got created. And if I have warnings, operation create user failed for FOP2 at test. Okay, so that was last one, and this one I think went okay. Create user identified foo test 3. Let's see, foo test 3 identified by MariaDB. Okay, so it's got created. For example, okay, let's say if I do this, okay, select password MariaDB. So what it says, like the option identified by password can be used to provide a account with the password that has already been hashed. The password should be specified as a hash that was provided in password function. It will also, okay, for example, if our password is mine, then we can use to find the hash value, and then we can create a user with the hash. Okay, so there is an option, and you can also have with a PAM authentication plugin, and create some authentication plugin allow additional arguments. So I can also use as an example TLS option. So create user this identified by this using password, create user this. So there's an options, and we can provide like this. So there are multiple options. How do you create it? And so I think that's so in short, you have an options to create it. That's what I can say. Okay, alter user. So there is an option to see alter user. Let's see what the syntax is. So this is created, then you can use the alter user to change the password. Okay, and it goes with that. Okay, that's cool. Then you have an option to drop an user. So how do you drop it? So you use drop user Bob. So if I say drop user foot, let's copy paste this. Okay, zero query, okay, zero row affected, okay. So this is dropped, okay. Now the third is grant. What is the privilege you can grant? So let's see. So variables like, okay, MySQL mode, you have to see strict trans travels error. Okay, what did it say? The grant statement allow you to implicitly create accounts in some cases. If your account does not yet exist, then the grant can implicitly create it. To implicitly create an account with the grant, a user is required to have the same privilege that would be required to explicitly create the account with the create user statement. If no auto create user SQL mode is set, the account can only be created with the authentic information provided. Okay, so there are so many other things, and let's see. Select user host from. Okay, so empty set. So it says, okay, we'll see this. So okay, grant users onto. So this is the way you grant the privilege, and there are the different privilege. So which are these global privileges are bin log monitor, reply, grant, read only. Database privileges are create, drop, event. Table privileges are alter, create view. Column privileges are there, function, procedure, proxy privileges are there. Okay, and if I do to asterisk, so it means like everything is given, and then there is an options like this, and let's see. Okay, let's see what this command give. Okay, so it says I'm connected to the Gaurav at localhost. My current user is Gaurav at the localhost. Okay, what the grant I have it. Okay, so I have all the privilege to me, and okay, so it goes like that way. So initially I have to make with the specific user. So right now I'm into the my local user. Okay, so this is the way, and okay, that's fine. Grant, we did it. So we can also have an option to rename the user. So how do you create user this, then rename user to Donald to Duck at local. Okay, so I have an option to how to rename it, then how to revoke the privilege, revoke super on this is from this. Okay, so I can use this command to revoke it. Okay, so let's see what I have it. How do you assign a password? So let's go to an example. Set password for okay, for example, you have an entry with the user and host column of Bob, and you would write the statement like this. If you want to delete a password, you should write like this. Okay, so if I put it without quotes, set password for this is equal to password, and then it will go like that way. So I think create role, drop role, then you have a set role, set default histograms. Okay, so I think let's not go into that detail because okay, so that is what it is. Then we already did it with the data in trans. Okay, so data at rest we did. Okay, let's see what is the data in okay, data in transit. So basically I think we went in. Okay, so okay, so this is the same thing. So the thing is like you have to enable the you have to enable between the master and the slave, and by first you create your certificates, then your queue management keys, that is a thing that you require. Either you can use the file management AWS plugins, and then in the open file you change the certificate keys and the keys details as a function, and then you start and stop and it will work. Okay, so this is the high level, and this is the roles. So inside the roles you have a different role which you can create. This is the same thing like a create role, drop role, set default role. Let's say for example if I click on one of these, so you can go for it. So you need to know the basic concepts, and okay, so you can also lock an account. How do you do it? So you create an user. Okay, so you put an account lock, it will lock. Okay, order user account lock, same as like Oracle DB. And okay, so you can also have, let's see what it says. There are 4 main features. Okay, it is possible to use more than one authentication plugin. Okay, so the root at the local host can use the 2 authentication. All user account password are now stored in the MySQL root table. Okay, also user password, okay, which is not active by default. Okay, so these are the new features that has come. Then user password expiry, you can have this command while say like interval 120, and then you can create a expiry for it. So basically you have to enable it. Okay, let's go back. So MariaDB administration. So now let's come how do the backing and restoring the databases. Okay, so backup and a restore overview for MariaDB. So what is the backup? Okay, logical versus physical backup. Logical backup consists of the SQL statement necessary to restore the research create table and table. Physical backups are performed by copying the usual data files. What are the main difference are as follows. Logical backups are more flexible as the data can be restored onto the hardware configuration, MariaDB version, or even another DMS, while physical backup cannot be imported to simulate different hardware. Logical backups can be performed at the level of database and table, while physical databases are the level of directories and file. In the MyISM and InnoDB storage engines, each table has an equivalent set of files. Okay, logical backups are larger in size than the equivalent physical backup. Logical backup takes more time to both backup and restore. Log file and okay, backup tools. What is the Maria backup? This is a command by this thing. Then Maria backup is a fork which added support. MySQL dump. Okay, MySQL dump performs a logical backup. Let's see. I have mine. Will it work or not? Let's see. I think something is working. Okay, so it's there. Okay, so it says welcome to the MariaDB monitor. Command ends with your MariaDB ID is 10. Okay, homebrew. Okay, so I put help. Okay, I think so user, I think so. Okay, select, I think select user. Okay, that's fine. So then for the backup file can be large and the restore time lengthy. MySQL dumps the data into SQL format, which can then be easily imported to another database. Okay, so it performs a logical backup. So basically what it does, it takes SQL ID. The data can be imported into another version of MariaDB, MySQL, or even other DBMS internally, assuming there are no version on DBS specific stamps in the dump. MySQL dumps triggers along with table, as these are a part of the table definition. However, stored procedure views and events are not, and the need extra parameters to be recreated specifically. InnoDB logical backup. InnoDB uses the buffer pool, which stores data and indexes from its table. Okay, which stores data and indexes from its table in memory. The buffer is very important for performance. InnoDB data does not fit in the memory. If InnoDB data does not fit in the memory, it is important that the buffer contains the most frequent accessed data. However, last accessed data is candidate for insertion into the buffer pool if not properly configured. When a table scan happens, InnoDB may copy the whole content of a table into the buffer pool. The problem with the logical backup is that they always imply full table scans. An easy way to avoid this by increasing the value of InnoDB old blocks time system variable. It represents the number of milliseconds that must pass before a recently accessed page can be put into the new sublist in the buffer pool. Data which is accessed only once should remain in the old sublist. This means that they will soon be evicted from the buffer pool, since during the backup process the old sublist is likely to store data that is not useful. One could also consider resizing it by changing the value of InnoDB old blocks percentage system variable. Okay, so how do you backup a single database? So you go to the cell, you put MySQL dump db underscore name, then your backup file name. Restoring, how do you do it? So you do it like MySQL db name and okay. So MySQL hot copy is deprecated. It performs a physical backup and once only by working up one. It can only okay. So this is the way, but it is deprecated. Percona is okay. So Precona extra backup is not supported. So these are for the different, and then there is a different. Okay, let's go back here. Replication. Okay, so its application is a backup solution. So it says that application is mostly used to support backup as follow: master server application to slave master. Backups are then run off the slave without any impact on the master. Backup can have a significant effect on the server, and high availability master may not be able to be stopped, locked, or simply handle the extra load of backup. Okay, so let me take a sip of water a sip of coffee or water, and I'll be back.